Ladies and gentlemen, that was a long intro. I don't know why I decided to have the music play that long, but I did. No big deal. Welcome back to DiabloCast. It is Friday, May 18th. I decided to have Diablo 3 is released, and there's just all sorts of technical errors going on right now. I think we've got it figured out. Jaded, how you doing? Welcome.
What's going on?
This is the worst opening ever. I started, alright, the music went for too long because I'm trying to figure out making sure the video is featured on the channel and all this stuff's going on, and then finally it looks like we're good, and then now I've got a motorcycle in the background. What a shit show. This is unbelievable. Alright guys,
going downhill, man.
Diablo 3 is out, and this is about how coordinated I have been all week, so just bear with me here. Really exciting time. Not a lot of sleep to be had by pretty much everyone. Lots of hacking and slashing and loot collecting going on, and today we'll be talking about a few things, starting with announcements, the delay of the Real Money Auction House, the Heroes of Sanctuary, Blizzard looks out for Australian players, the rocky start, or the rocky launch to the game, I suppose I should say, and then we'll be going into a bit of discussion concerning the difficulty in Diablo 3, the uselessness of white and gray items, and then just our general thoughts on the game. So let us begin with the announcements, and starting off, we will be mentioning the fact that the Real Money Auction House was delayed by a week. Of course, we already knew that. It was delayed by another week. A second week now. So the Real Money Auction House is actually not going to be live until Tuesday, May 29th. Now, originally, they had stated that the Real Money Auction House would be implemented a week after launch, and their plan was for May 22nd. But apparently it's not working out. I don't know why. They didn't give any specifics in the official article, and I hadn't seen. Have you seen anything anywhere, or even any like hypothesizing as to why this had happened? Because I haven't
even been following anything with like the Real Money Auction House. I
don't think you've left Sanctuary, to be frank with.
So I have no idea like what's going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been delayed by another week. I guess that's really all we know at the moment. I guess it's really not that big of a deal. I wonder though. Obviously there are some people who didn't follow the game super closely, and they might not even know about the Real Money Auction House. They might just be like, "Oh, here's Diablo 3, and oh look, there's an auction house." And then 2 weeks after the game releases, they're like, "Wait, what? What's this? Real money?" So it's pretty interesting that they were, first of all, unable to launch the game with it, but second of all, that there's been another delay. Now, I have to wonder if this is technical issues or if this is sort of or legal issues. I wonder if they're running into any legal issues right now. I mean, even getting the Real Money Auction House in the game was a headache to them at the start because of that reason. There were some, certain areas of the world that just didn't want anything to do with it because they thought it was equivalent to gambling, basically. So I don't know, I'm just hypothesizing, but nevertheless it has been delayed. Once again, that is going to be Tuesday, May 29th is when they plan to officially launch the Real Money Auction House. Whether or not we get another delay, it's certainly possible. It is Blizzard after all, so we'll have to wait and see. Do you care at all that this has been delayed? Does this bother you in the slightest, or?
Not one bit. With the way items are working in the game right now, I don't see myself putting anything up there anyways. I don't know about you.
I'm definitely going to be using the Real Money Auction House. That's an interesting statement that you make, though. Why don't you elaborate? Why do you think that you say the way items work, you're not going to put them up? Do you think just people aren't going to buy anything from you? You're not even going to bother?
Well, I'm not going to put anything up because I haven't found anything crazy yet. I'm still in hell mode. So, like, the really strong items, you're going to get an Inferno. Like, maybe I'll put those up. But, it might take a drop to make me want to even venture over there.
And it's interesting, too, because this is this is kind of the thing that I was wondering, and the point that I brought up initially when it came to the Real Money Auction House is the fact that it's always going to be a struggle. You get a great item, and do you want to sell it, or you're just going to want to keep it? I'm sure there are going to be great items that you can't use, but even if that's the case, you have got alts to consider, and you've got a lot of times friends to consider. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, and I guess we're still waiting before this thing is actually implemented, but once it is implemented, I'm going to be interested to see how widely it's used. I almost think that people won't bother for the most part, except for the rarest of the rare items. And I think that's probably how it's going to be for me. I mean, for the average mundane item, I'm probably just going to be either salvaging it or selling it for gold to the vendor. I don't know that it'd be kind of worth the hassle, to be frank, to go to the auction house again, unless it's something that's amazing. But even then, again, I'm brought back to the conundrum that this seems to be. I play with a decent group of friends that I've always gamed with, and a lot of times if I find a good item, if I can't use it, it's going to one of them. So I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm exactly.
You
I'm exactly
brought
the
up a good
same
point.
way. I'm exactly the same way with friends because, I have like 4 or 5 friends around the same level right now, and if I find like a really good legendary that's gonna help us out clear content, like I'm not gonna put that on the auction house. So I'll just give it to someone.
Yeah, like put it to good use. Why would you not? Like, I don't know. It's interesting. But the auction house has been delayed, so we can't use it yet anyways. Have you used the gold auction house at all? I've not touched that thing. I wonder
Really?
how... I have not touched the gold auction house, not even for a second.
Yeah, no, it's good for like if you have a strong item for the level range, you can throw it up there and it's like it shows at the very top, so it's gonna get a lot of eyes on it, and you can put like undercut people. I've made probably like 100K so far.
Oh,
no
really?
biggie, but yeah, if
What do you
you're
have right
broke-
now for gold in the game?
It's fluctuating. Like I'm leveling up blacksmithing and like
Right.
stash and all that, but somewhere around like 150,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
150K.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I was focusing a lot on leveling up blacksmithing, and then I just kind of halted that a little bit, and so now I'm starting to accumulate gold. But the second I focus on it, it drops so quickly.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. I've been getting frustrated with blacksmithing in general, to be honest. Just the fact that a lot of the stats on the gear are, of course, randomized. You have the random attributes to it, and more times than not, I'm just getting complete garbage. And it just like I'll make 4 or 5 items that are completely worthless for me, and they'll say, you know what, forget it. I'm gonna go just farm gear. I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, same here. It's like it's obvious they put it in as a replacement for gambling because that's exactly what you're doing when you're crafting these things, and they're not cheap either. Rares are like 20K now for me to craft, so it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, and just throwing away mats too, like the legendary crafting materials and all that stuff, can be frustrating. Also wanted to mention up on the Diablo 3 homepage was the Heroes of Sanctuary post. Now this is going to actually be, these are the short stories that came with the official reveals of the classes on the Darkness Falls Heroes Rise promotional site that was going on before the game's official launch, and they put up this post just kind of to put it all in one place. So the stories for the 5 character classes that again were revealed during this promotion are all in one post right now, and you can go there, get links to each of them if this is something that you're interested in. I feel like most people, though, if they were interested in this thing, probably saw it beforehand, and otherwise they're just playing Diablo 3 and really couldn't care too much about this. But if you are interested, and maybe this is just one of those things for later down the road, maybe bookmark the page and you'll read them eventually. I have not read these. I did not even bother. And I assume you, given your attitude towards lore, I'm assuming you have not even glanced at these things either.
Correct. I have not.
Yeah.
Don't hate me.
Yeah, it's fine. I certainly understand where you're coming from. Like, you talked about that in the past, how when it comes to games, you aren't awfully concerned about the lore. And for the most part, I am that way. I did not care at all for any lore in World of Warcraft, ever. I never read a single quest or anything, unless it was required for me to actually find stuff like back in the day. And this is actually the only game that the lore has ever brought me in. And it's I don't know. Just for the most part, I'm just like, I don't care. I'll just play the game. I don't need to listen to your stupid stories. Blizzard has been looking out for Australian players. If you happen to pre-order the game from Game in Australia, the retailer Game, and had issues getting it, Blizzard actually did what they could to help you out. I'm sure that if this has happened to you, that you've already taken advantage of this, but maybe you haven't. And if you didn't know about it, what they are actually doing for people who pre-ordered Diablo 3 from the Australian retailer Game is they said, go ahead and purchase a digital version from the website anytime before May 21st. So there's only a couple more days of this left. You download and start playing the game, and then what will happen is you have to submit your Game Australia pre-order / pre-purchase receipt to Blizzard before June 30th, 2012, and with that you'll be able to receive credit from them. So what happened is that people weren't able to get their pre-orders because the retailer Game is just doing terribly. They're going under. I think they filed for bankruptcy or something along those lines, an equivalent of bankruptcy. It was about a month ago. So obviously that has caused some issues for certain people pre-ordering the game, who pre-ordered the game a long time ago before all this happened. And it's really good to see Blizzard, it's actually taking care of this, because they are in no way obligated to do this, This is another company, a retailer, who was unable to fulfill their obligation of pre-orders because they went under, and there was no reason that Blizzard had to essentially buy these games for them, which is what they're doing, It's pretty awesome of them. I'm really actually happy they decided to do that, because I can only imagine how frustrating that would be to have pre-ordered a game and not be able to get it when it went live. So,
yeah, absolutely. I always hear stuff with Australia having issues, and I have to imagine if I was Australian, I'd be pulling my hair out sometimes with launches for games, because there's always something, and they have to always connect to like our servers and get bad ping and stuff. So
yeah,
it's good to see some love going their way.
Right. And again, certainly big props to Blizzard for going out of their way to do something that they by no means had to do at all. Next up in the announcements, we just want to take a little bit of time to talk about the terribly rocky start. Very, very, very frustrating. Just logging in, for obviously us in particular on the U.S. servers, what did it take us about? The servers went live, quote, and it took us, I don't remember, was it about an hour to actually log into the game? I think we're staring at the login screen.
I think it was about 40 minutes that it took us to be able to log in.
Yeah, and that is that was not the worst of them at all. There were certainly other servers. The second that the servers were supposed to go live, they were running into other issues. And then to top it all off, that wasn't the last of it. It just got worse as time went on, it seemed.
Yeah.
I mean, we were able, because we did the live stream, we were finally able to log in after about 40 minutes, and we did the live stream for about 8 hours, and that went fine. We didn't experience any issues then, but it seemed like for the next day and a half or 2 days, they were just constant disconnects and downtime and errors and all sorts of things, and it was really, really frustrating because, damn, the game just came out. I just wanted to play some Diablo 3.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to expect this type of stuff to happen within the first week. Like, everybody's experienced an MMO launch or any online game. You're just going to run into constant issues in the first week. You kind of prepare for it. It was a little annoying because there was a really long downtime where I was just like, okay, I should just go make a video or something, because it's just getting a little too crazy and people have to sleep and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember thinking that too, but at the same time, I was like, "Oh wait, what if the servers go up any minute?" Then I'll be in the middle of making some stupid video, and I'll miss the servers going live. But it was very, very, very frustrating. And I know you say that you mentioned like MMOs, and certainly we understand with MMOs, but the thing is, this isn't an MMO, and I think that's probably what frustrated people the most. So many people who had hoped for a single-player mode, and we understand why there's no single-player mode. One of the biggest reasons is the security thing. They don't want all of the game's information on our systems. They want it all to stay on Blizzard servers, and that makes hacking a lot more difficult because you actually have to get into Blizzard servers to get all this information. But That aside, a lot of people wanted that to be the case. They wanted to have a single player mode, and then the game comes out, and there are people who couldn't play it for half a day, for full days. Obviously not everyone is able to just be around the computer all day. So people who worked on Tuesday and came home and were unable to log in and tried, in the evening and were unable to log in, and tried the next day and were unable to log in. I mean, there was continuous issues, continuous downtime for, it was usually about an hour at a time, sometimes even 2 or 3 hours. I don't remember, was it Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon that the servers were down for like 3? I think it was Tuesday afternoon, right? That the servers were down for like 3 or 4 hours. And we're just talking U.S. servers here. Forget like everything else that's going on in all the other regions.
Yeah, I'm curious how other servers, like if they've been having the same issues. I have to imagine they do, and I think that maybe they're bringing them down because of like exploits that were found or something. I have no idea.
I didn't hear anything about that, but that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, maybe just some behind the scenes like exploits or something. I have no idea. I know there are like there was this one guy that found a chest that you could go to over and over. It was on Reddit. I saw this. I'm gonna have to go check it out after the podcast. Yeah, there's like this chest you can keep going to and get like rare drops over and over.
What?
So,
and it works?
I think it's just one of those things that's just like not working as intended. You don't always get a rare drop, but it's one of those higher tier chests that drop better stuff.
Yeah.
So you gotta check it out on Reddit if you're interested in that.
Exploits. I won't say I condone it, but I'll just say that is very interesting. And I may have to take a look just to be, informed.
Yeah.
Just to be informed about it. Yeah, and I know that you weren't certain. I know for a fact that some people are having major issues, and I didn't experience much of this. I think it was the European servers that had significant lag issues, like terrible ping. For an extended period of time. I've had, here and there, and it's like my internet's fine. I've got really high speed internet because of all the YouTubing and live streaming and stuff that I do. So I know it wasn't me, but every now and then I'd get a little bit of hiccups. I don't know if you experienced that a little bit as well. But I guess some people had literally huge latency issues for a very long time.
Yeah, there were a few instances where it would spike up to like 1,000 ping or something, and it would take about a minute to ease out. But overall, it's been pretty stable. I can't imagine anybody playing hardcore right now is having a good time though.
Yeah, just the slightest little hiccup is gonna lose your character, and again, that's one of the complaints, and this is going to continue to come up. There's no question in my mind at all that people are going to be probably forever complaining about this fact that they have to always be online, and hardcore players will die because of lag. It is going to happen. I guarantee if you're like a lifelong hardcore player and that's like all you do, that at one point or another that you will die because of lag. You will lose a character because of lag. There's no question about that, and you won't get it back. That's Blizzard's not planning on ever resurrecting any players at all.
But so you can look at it in your online profile.
Yeah, you can see what you lost. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny too because people are going to ask. Obviously, people will be like, "Hey, so I lost my character because of your crappy servers and a disconnect that happened because of your network issues. So revive my character." And Blizzard will say, "Sorry, can't do it." And there'll be a whole bunch of queuing. It's that I could see people being very frustrated about. Now, I will play hardcore. That's not the sole thing that I will do. I'm definitely going to probably focus on my normal characters, but I'll still putz around and play hardcore and level up a hardcore character, at least one. But for the people who are really dedicated to hardcore, I can really see the frustration in online always for that very reason. I can definitely understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so server downtime, disconnects, all sorts of problems. There was also this pretty interesting issue with the Templar. Basically, what was happening is while playing the Demon Hunter, I'm not sure if they've patched this yet, but what happened was while playing the Demon Hunter, if you were to give a shield to your Templar before killing Jondar, just unbelievable like circumstances there. But if you're playing a Demon Hunter and you give a shield to your Templar before killing Jondar, you would get disconnected and you are unable to reconnect to the servers. What the heck? It doesn't even make any sense at all. But for some reason, this was occurring. And so, warnings have gone out so that anyone who happens to follow the Diablo scene, checking on Reddit or Diablo fans or anywhere like that, would have known about this. But for the people who don't follow this thing closely, that's got to be annoying to deal with. And I think what was happening is when this would happen, you'd have to like tell Blizzard, you'd send them something, and then hopefully they fix it on your account specifically. But God, that's annoying. So all this stuff going on, not the greatest launch. There's no question about that. Again, once more, it's not an MMO, so people don't really expect this. There's plenty of games that are Force Online only that haven't had this many issues. I doubt they had as much traffic as Blizzard did for Diablo 3. I mean, part of the reason all this is happening is because just so many people are playing the game, and most of the server issues because there's too many people trying to log on at the same time. The server's going to handle it, yada, yada, yada. But with all of that said, Blizzard still understands that this has got to be incredibly frustrating for its players. And even just reading the forums or Reddit or whatever, there's also been reviews that have, been majorly negatively impacted because of all these issues that have happened for the launch of the game. And so Blizzard put out a formal apology, specifically Mr. Bashiok, the community manager, telling everyone, hey, just want to let you guys know we realize that you're excited about this game. We apologize for all of the issues that have happened. We've been monitoring the servers, and things look pretty smooth now. This was posted yesterday. There's still been a little bit of issues since then, but I mean, it's really just it's not much at all. They're just playing face and trying to apologize, but this doesn't really reassure or make anyone any happier from stuff that has already happened. Have you? I don't know if you've seen anything, Jaded, but have you happened to look at any reviews or heard any of the reviews? There's just been some major negative criticism about the game for multiple reasons, but one of the biggest things was the fact that people trying to play the game couldn't even do it. So they just then they write up a furious review. Diablo 3 sucks, it can't even play at the end.
Yeah, the only thing I saw was I went to Metacritic, and it was when I looked, it was a 3.3. Like people had zerged it and just downvoted it to oblivion.
Well, that's because they couldn't play. Like if they were able to log in, then that wouldn't have happened. But
yeah,
that's obviously not indicative of how most people feel about the game. I'm sure there's a segment of people who are not happy with the game for whatever reason, and we're going to be talking about some of those possible reasons later on. But it's a solid game overall, and it's unfortunate that they had such a rough launch. Let me ask you, Jaded, besides an MMO, have you experienced a game launch that was internet connected that has been this difficult ever? Besides an MMO?
Not really.
I have to say no. For me, I've never, even StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 is, you have to be connected, right? And that there was not this issue. So
I don't remember StarCraft 2, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's what makes Diablo kind of this unique experience. There's not many games like it on the market, and any that aren't online, other than I guess Torchlight 2 that's coming out. And
that's got an offline mode too, though.
Right.
That's the other thing.
So I mean, there's nothing really like Diablo 3 and has the attention that it does.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why it's such a unique issue.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people view this as a single player game. I mean, I've played a bunch of co-op, but I think I've logged more hours single player, and it's I think that's probably the case for a lot of people. Not everyone, but a lot of people probably play this game primarily single player, at least a majority of the time. And so to have to be forced online, blech, and then to have all these issues as a result of that forced internet connection and be unable to play the game, I guess the point is you can certainly see where these complaints are coming from. Like, they don't seem that unfounded at all.
I think too, a lot of people are going through the game their first time single player just to get just to take their time with the game.
Right.
So that's probably getting a lot more attention than co-op right now.
Yeah. I totally agree. Now we're going to move on to discussion. Firstly, we need to talk about Diablo 3's difficulty. Or as some people would say, the lack thereof. I think a lot of people, before we dive into this, I think a lot of people maybe just don't understand Diablo 3. You know, there's a lot of people who are certainly new to the game, if not just the franchise. You know, if they're not just the game type in general, action RPGs, hack and slash action RPGs. I think a lot of people are just new to this game type, the genre, and you know, they'll play through the game on normal, and that's taking people in the vicinity of 8 hours. Do you think that's about right for an average? 8 hours?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So about 8 hours. You know, some people maybe closer to 6, some people maybe closer to 10, but I say if we had to average it, it'd be around 8 or 9 or so. And then they say, all right, great, I killed Diablo. So wait, what? and they think that's it. They think, okay, you killed Diablo, and for a lot of people, that is it. And you look at Diablo 2 and you look at Diablo 1, Blizzard has come out and stated in the past that a vast majority of people who purchase the game play through it once on one difficulty. And in a lot of games, people do that. Heck, I do that in a lot of games. You know, there's a lot of games that have, but it's different in Diablo 3, or maybe it isn't. Maybe I just think of it as different. I don't know. But you know, a lot of people, whatever, you're playing a shooter, you're playing a game like this, or a regular RPG, a hack and slash action RPG, you're playing a driving game. There's different difficulty levels. A lot of people will play a game on one difficulty, they'll beat it, and then they'll put it away. The thing with Diablo, though, and you can chime in on this as well, like what you think about it, but the thing with Diablo, and I think most of the hardcore players, the hardcore fans, will agree with the fact that the game doesn't really start until, sure, it's got a great story, but the actual, you know, the biggest thing about the game is collecting gear, you know, going on gear runs, and that doesn't really even start until the last difficulty. I mean, looking at like Hell and Inferno. But some people are just playing through the game once and they're like, all right, that's cool, I saw the story, I'm all done with Diablo 3. Wow, it's really short. What do you think about that, Jaded?
Me personally, I know this sounds bad, but I think the whole game is kind of a wash up until Inferno. Like, the gear you get doesn't really matter too much until you're getting Inferno drops. Mm-hmm. And that is a long time for some people to be like, well, this is taking a long time for this game to actually, I guess, quote unquote, matter what you're doing. Yeah. So it can feel a little, like, I don't know, I guess they just don't understand exactly what you're saying. They don't understand how a game like this works. And they think it is too easy. Personally, I think some of the bosses could be a bit tougher. I just got the impression they were a little too face roll. Like, I wanted much more mechanic-heavy boss fights. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you. But they just seemed a little too, like, I don't know, just run up and smash it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say so far I agree with that. I am just finishing up Nightmare right now on my Barbarian. I'm a level 51 Barbarian, just finishing up Nightmare, working my way into Hell, and so with that, I've had 2 difficulties worth of run-throughs with the bosses. Now you're working through Hell right now. What act are you on?
I'm on Act 2 right now.
Okay, so you've at the very least killed all of Act 1 bosses on 3 difficulties. Yeah. The butcher. The thing that I was hoping would happen, and I haven't really noticed it, maybe because I've only played through each particular boss on 2 difficulties, is that I was hoping for more mechanics or something new in the difficulties. Did you notice anything? Were there, like, let's talk about the Skeleton King. Were there more skelly spawns in Hell than there were in Inferno and Normal?
Not that I noticed. It all seemed very similar. I couldn't notice anything different other than I was watching people do Inferno, and obviously that's when the enrage timers come into play.
Right, enrage timers, yeah.
But other than that, they look very similar.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there's like an extra skeleton thrown in there or something, but I didn't significantly notice a huge difference. Now, that's a disclaimer. The game's only been out for a few days, and I am only right now finishing up Nightmare. I've still got Hell and Inferno to go, and Jaded here still has to finish up Hell and work his way into Inferno as well. But with that exposure so far, I haven't noticed much of a difference. And yeah, I've seen the Inferno videos as well. And I besides the enraged timers, I agree. I haven't really noticed much else. I think they just have more health and they do more damage. Now that changes once they enrage in Inferno, but yeah, that's basically it. So I don't know. That aside, we're just going to set that aside for a minute to go back onto the discussion of the game's length and difficulty and whatnot. Now, here's something else I want to point out. Most games, most $60 AAA titles, you look at like the single player co-op, most of them are 6 to 8 hours. Like, with the exception of really, really large games like Skyrim, and I'm just talking about one playthrough, like seeing the story once. All right. So with that said, I'm also really a little bit confused as to why a lot of people are complaining about a single playthrough's length. Because most campaigns, you start the game start to finish in a difficulty, most of them last about 8 hours, and that's what Diablo sits at. And again, now we've talked about the fact, we've mentioned the fact that there's so much more to the game because you're supposed to go through the later difficulties. At least if that's if you're playing Diablo, how the hardcore people would say, the real way. I guess that sounds kind of elitist though, doesn't it? I mean, let's just take a step back. Forget the fact that we that we really love Diablo. All right, think about any other game that you've played. And if you thought, well, that was kind of easy, derp, and then someone was like, well, you didn't play it on the hardest difficulty, so you're a scrub. Like, you know what I mean? I guess, yeah. I don't know. But I mean, because of the game type it is, as an action RPG, it is all about the loot and the magic find runs and the gear acquisition. And once again, all that stuff happens in the later difficulties, which most people are nowhere near right now. I would probably say the average person is maybe working their way up towards the end of normal, maybe starting Inferno. The average player, I've logged 30 so hours. I think that you're about the same so far. And I'm like at the end of Nightmare. You're at like the beginning of Hell. So, and I would say 30 hours is probably more than the average person has done right now. So I would say most people probably haven't even fully finished the game. Most people who have purchased it, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that, Jaded? Do you think that these complaints are a little bit ridiculous, given the fact that most games that cost $60 are 8 to 10 hours, closer to 8? Hell, like what Call of Duty, or a lot of the FPS games, they're like 6-hour campaigns.
Yeah, they're like 6.
Yeah.
I think if you're the type of player that doesn't get into the multiplayer aspect of games, you just play single player and just that's your only experience is the first run through, you just want to see the story and what the game has to offer, I could see you being disappointed with Diablo specifically because it is kind of face roll, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some validity there, but I just think back to that's not how you play this game.
Well, maybe that's the problem though. Maybe we understand the purpose because think about Blizzard, right? They're like, all right, well, we're a huge company now. They've always made amazing games, but since World of Warcraft, they're just gigantic, and anything they put out is going to get a crap ton of attention. And you look at the vast majority of players, not the hardcore gamers, not people who are doing a Diablo podcast or who post video game videos on the internet, because we're in the kind of the higher echelon of gamers. We're the people who are really dedicated to gamers. It's a big part of to gaming. It's a big part of our life. But you look at the average player. This is a large part of Blizzard's market. It's where most of their revenue is going to come from, the casual, not so hardcore player. And they said, all right, we want these people to get into this game that they maybe have never played before. Maybe they haven't touched Diablo 2 or Diablo 1. But we don't want to intimidate them because a lot of the casual players don't like crazy hard challenges. So they thought, let's make normal super easy. Their statement, their tag for normal difficulty in Diablo 3 is like the tutorial. They say, this is the introduction to the game. This is not going to be a challenge. Your grandmother can beat it. And I think the issue with that too is that in a lot of games you start off and you have like 2 or 3 difficulties that you can choose from to start the game with. But in Diablo, you're forced to play in the easiest, most basic difficulty. And with a lot of those casual players who don't care to do multiple runs or try the various difficulty levels, I would say the average player will pick like the medium range difficulty. But in Diablo, you're forced to play the easiest difficulty. So since they're forced to do that, and since Blizzard has made the easiest difficulty the easiest, just incredibly face roll, as you said, and I don't think Blizzard would disagree with that statement. It's not intended to be like rude or saying that it's a bad, it's not talking about the quality of the game in general, but the difficulty of the first playthrough is super easy. And I wonder if they've shot themselves in the foot trying to make it really accessible, and then maybe forgetting the fact that many people won't even bother playing past the first one. So that's giving them a lot of negative press right now. Do you think there's any validity to that?
I think so. I think normal is just a bit too easy. They could amp it up. They could go back and tune it up a little bit so that people just who want to do the first normal playthrough have a good time. Yeah, I think they should go back and tune it up. I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm just concerned that maybe they were hoping that people who normally don't play through the games multiple times would with Diablo, but I'm concerned that this isn't going to change the fact that most people don't care to play through games multiple times.
This is why they pushed online so much.
Right.
It's to get you involved in what Diablo actually is. Because if it was offline, these would be, much more valid complaints. But because they're really pushing the online and the co-op and the progression and trying to really just let you in on what Diablo actually is, so new players can understand it better.
Yeah. And it's a shame, with that said, that they didn't launch with the PvP. I know it's not the biggest thing, but taking a look at some of those people who don't care in any game to play through a campaign more than once, maybe if they saw the PvP and were like, oh man, this person's got really good gear. Oh yeah, it's because he played the game again on a different difficulty and he's getting better gear. I mean, it's so basic to us, but a lot of people won't think about that because a lot of people just think, it's a campaign, you play it once, whatever. So maybe if they had the PvP, I think that would have maybe quelled some of it, at least for some players, because they would have been like, oh, okay, so this PvP thing's here, and if I want to do well here, I need to get better gear, and to do that, let me keep playing through the game. Let me try this next difficulty. But the fact that it is an action RPG kind of negates all of that, the hack and slash, the dungeon crawler, because the whole point of this type of game has always been keep continuously playing, grind, find better gear. But a lot of people just aren't too familiar with that model, and I think that's causing a lot of the issues, and I think that's where a lot of the complaints are kind of coming from. So yeah, I mean, the game's takes about 8 hours or so to play through once, and you have to keep on playing if you really want to get into the meat of it. But I understand complaints of the first difficulty being too easy for the average player. That makes sense to me. Maybe if they had just made you, I guess you really couldn't though. I was just gonna say maybe if they made it so that you could just walk straight into a nightmare. Obviously that would not work at all.
Yeah, that actually popped into my head too. I was like, what if they did allow you to?
And then it just like that'd be impossible.
That's retarded, yeah.
No one would survive. It's just weird because it's very different from a lot of other normal RPGs.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's just how it is. People new to the genre, that's what it's all about. Now we're going to talk about progression. There's going to be a little bit of spoilers here because we will be talking about boss fights. Just be aware of that. If you're listening to DiabloCast, we have to talk about progression. This is going to be probably what we'll be talking about for the next couple of weeks, or however long it takes for the game to be completely beat in Inferno. But it's been going pretty quick, and this is another aspect to the difficulty complaints that have been occurring. People saying, "Wow, Blizzard, you said Inferno was going to be impossible and was going to take months for anyone to beat." And some people, specifically, Method Gaming, or the YouTube channel name is Method Network. But
they were big in World of Warcraft.
As of today, they've gone up to Asmodon in Inferno. That is far. That is real. That they have progressed really, really far. I'm going to play a quick video, so once again, if you want to avoid spoilers, please make sure that you just turn away for the next 5 or 10 minutes. But yeah, we're going to pick this up and play it. So we're still talking about difficulty, but this is really crazy. How do you feel about the fact that anyone, forget the fact that these are super hardcore gamers who are just completely dedicated and very, very coordinated. This isn't the average player, but how do you feel the fact that people are even here right now?
I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I think it was bound to happen that like a group of people would be able to clear it pretty fast,
Yeah.
Like this is kind of expected, but
I can't believe
disappointed on one side because I wanted this to take a really, really long time for anyone to do.
Yeah.
And it's almost happened like within the first. Well, it has happened within the first week.
Yeah, I agree. Something that I think that they could have done to remedy this, and maybe they'll make a change. I don't think you should be able to res people in a boss fight. That's just me,
I agree with that.
That's just my opinion. I think that is people are able to die and then just kind of kite the boss away, distract him, be like, hey, Asmodon, over here, and then someone else just circumvents and reses. And actually, we just saw that in the video just a moment ago. But I think that would help alleviate some of these issues. But I agree. I wanted this to be crazy difficult, but they're just I expected this too. I really did. I'm like, all right, I know you guys are saying months and months and months, but man, hardcore gamers in a game like Diablo 3, I expected this to be pretty quick. And sure, the Inferno has yet to be completely cleared, but tune in next DiabloCast. I would not be surprised if they made the mark. I would not be surprised at all.
I think too, it has to do with like talking about the resurrection mechanics. It's so fast to res somebody. It doesn't always break on damage.
No, it doesn't. That's weird. I assumed it would.
And then on top of that, there's really no downside to dying other than you have to rebuff yourself. But your skills are usually up again.
You lose 10 durability. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, it doesn't affect any of your damage output. It doesn't, you don't spawn with a little bit of health. It's just you're back up. 100% ready to go.
Now, I wonder if Blizzard is going to, with all this happening, I'm sure somebody obviously there knows that up to Asmodon now has been cleared, and I'm sure people are biting their nails like, wow, we promised this really epic, impossible experience, and our players, as hardcore and amazing as they are have way surpassed what their expectations were, And we talked about this before launch. This happened. According to what Blizzard said, I have no way of proving it. No one has any way of proving it. But according to Blizzard, when they were tuning the game, when they were testing for difficulty, they took their best gamers on their staff. And, admittedly, that's not necessarily going to be the best gamers in the world. But they took their best gamers on the staff, and they had them play the game, and they said, all right, get us to a point. We're going to balance it to where you think it is very difficult. And then they doubled that difficulty for the game's release. So they took the hardest difficulty that their staff thought they could do, they doubled it, and it is still getting face rolled. I'm not saying that this is an easy task, and certainly these guys did a great job. It's a pretty unbelievable feat that they've gotten this far. But the fact that they've done it so quickly is why I'm saying that it's being face rolled right now, because you don't see. Well, I don't know. I guess you did. I haven't. It's been a long time since I followed WoW rating progression. But are people clearing WoW raids in a week after launch? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I haven't played WoW in a very long time either, so I have no idea.
I know, I know back in the day it took quite a while, but I remember hearing people say that people were clearing WoW raids pretty quick. But that's besides the point. The hardcore gamer is obviously always going to do well. And look at this, we've got a bunch of deaths right now. If for those of you watching the live stream, and they're just going to res up. They just res them up. Doesn't matter. That needs to get fixed. If Blizzard wants to make this challenging, this needs to get fixed.
Mm-hmm. It's not that it's not even that you're dying per se. It's more the fact that they're able in their current gear to down these bosses. That's a bit bizarre to me.
Yeah.
I would think it would take a lot of farming of Hell mode to get gear to be able to kill these bosses. But that's not the case at all. They're able to do it with, just coming out of Hell mode, which is really a bit too much, I think.
And for me, admittedly, I would not say, by any stretch of the imagination, that boss fights are the most difficult things in Diablo. I would say rare and champion packs are.
Yeah.
I personally, while playing through, have had the most difficulty. The bosses have been, again, I'm still just in Nightmare. I'm finishing up Nightmare. But the bosses have been not nearly as hard as getting multiple packs with multiple affixes. Crazy stuff like Jailer and Arcane shoot me in the face. Like, it's the most frustrating thing to deal with because there's literally nothing you can do about it. But
the worst one I had was, it was like Horde with Arcane and Mortar. And, you can't run away because the mortar homes in on you.
Yeah.
You can't get close because the little arcane spinny things. I mean, there's so many combinations that just mess you up, and it only gets worse as you progress, as they get more and more affixes. I just ran into one recently that had invulnerable minions, so you can only kill the main guy.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, now with that said, you know what's happening here, right? These guys are skipping a lot of champion packs. I guarantee it. I guarantee they're focusing on trying to find the boss as soon as possible. That's why they're doing this so fast, because they're not farming Inferno. They're going for the bosses.
And they're actually kind of cheesing their way to the bosses. They'll I was watching Kriparian, and he was basically had this build on his barb where you could just pass every single pack of mobs, and it was still a little tough. And I saw him in Act 2 have more trouble as the mobs got faster.
Right.
He couldn't really run away as easy. But he would just bypass everything to get to the boss door and then click it, and then everyone clicks accept, and you're safe.
Oh, and of course, I mean, you expect that, right? This is not surprising at all that hardcore gamers who are trying to get world first and all this stuff are doing this. It's certainly understandable, but I think that's something else that's important to keep in mind. These guys are going straight for the boss, and the bosses aren't the most difficult things in Diablo. It is, without question, the champion packs, and they're skipping that because I don't think that they would. I think if they were trying to farm gear right now, that they wouldn't be this far. That's just my opinion, though.
The only thing I'm bummed out about with bosses regarding that fact is bosses don't even drop good loot. Right? They drop blues at the most. It's what is going on here? Earlier they said the first boss kill you get is going to give you a rare 100%. I was like, oh, okay, once per difficulty, but it's not even that.
Yeah.
It's just normal mode gives you rares. So Nightmare just oh, we killed this boss, we get blue drops.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. This isn't, once again, I guess just to kind of recap it, the fact that this is happening isn't really unexpected. We have to keep a few things in mind, like we said, that the bosses aren't the most difficult thing in Diablo 3, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe they should change that. Maybe they should throw some champion packs in with these boss fights. Why not? Give them some minions. That's
what?
There's no minions in any boss fights.
Yeah,
there's a few with a couple. But
here's the thing about affixes. If you make a boss random, it kind of comes down to RNG. So if say you put affixes on bosses where they're getting these things like arcane and fire chains and all that
would be crazy.
You're gonna get a spawn of the boss that you just can't kill, and it's gonna be really frustrating. So I think that's kind of why they went with this mentality of.
But why is that? But in Inferno, why is that not okay? In Inferno, that should be fine.
Yeah.
Because Inferno is supposed to be stupid. Like it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. It should be utterly ridiculous to even go in there right now.
Yeah, yeah, man. They're just, and again, good on these guys for doing what they're doing right now. It's frustrating for a lot of people. Here's another thing to keep in mind: these guys are not you. Most of you listening to this, these guys are not you. These guys, they probably just have been playing nonstop, and that's it. Highly coordinated, high caliber gamers. You said they were involved in a lot of World of Warcraft stuff, Jada.
Yeah, Method I think came from WoW. And they did all that rating stuff.
And that's actually what Blue said about this. And I don't know if it's a good response. I don't know if this is the response that they should be giving. I think that maybe they should be talking about the things that we were talking about. The fact that bosses aren't the most difficult thing. The fact that they shouldn't allow you to res during a boss fight. Maybe they should throw some affixes on there just for lulz, or even just throw some packs in there. I expected more minions too in some of these boss fights, and like I said, very few of them have minions, and the ones that do, that there aren't a lot of them, and it hasn't been that daunting at all. But yeah, Blizzard said, hey man, great for those guys, but that's not the average player. What do you say right here? Zarhim. Don't get me wrong, I congratulate those who've made it so far already in Inferno. It's truly a remarkable feat, but the amount of preparation needed, the sheer min-maxing necessary, and the support from other players not in the group in the form of item farmers, etc., means I'm not able to relate much to these players at all. In fact, I doubt there are many players out there who can relate to these type of players or their tactics. So basically what he's saying is, alright, these guys who are doing this, they're not the average gamer, they're the super hardcore, and most of you regular people won't be able to do this, so it's not a big deal. But I don't know if that's the right attitude towards this. I think that their attitude should be like, all right, well, why is this happening? And we've promised this to be difficult, so let's make the adjustments necessary to make sure that happens. Let's change what we need to change to make sure that these guys aren't going to clear Act 4 in the next 3 days. I hope.
Yeah,
I want them to
Sorry.
No, let's go ahead.
I just hope they don't have the mentality that they can't tune this stuff up, because it's already out there and people have already done it. Like, I think it's okay to go back and ramp up the difficulty on some of this.
Yeah, I agree. These people would have issue with it, and I would absolutely understand if I were in their shoes and I were dedicating, the past few days and probably the next week to nothing but Diablo and trying to run this. If they were to just flip the switch all of a sudden and make everything that much more difficult, completely negate all our tactics, these people will be upset. The people who are clearing Inferno right now. But I think overall for the community and just for the game in general, I think that this would be the best thing to do. And people, here's the other thing too. I think that people are going to see something like this happening. They're going to be like, well, okay, so these guys, yeah, they're clearing. All right, so they cleared Inferno. Wow, okay, so the game's over, right? Like, there's nothing. That's the other thing with Diablo. Sure, all this is happening, and this is great that these people are doing it, but just because you clear Inferno doesn't mean the game's over. Like, again, just a reminder, it's about the item hunt. It's not about beating the game once on one difficulty, or beating the game, the final boss on the last difficulty. You need to keep doing this, because the point of the game is to get more gear and stuff. So even when that happens, it's not like the end-all, be-all.
That's the thing, too, is they're not farming gear. They're just killing the bosses. Like, it's so hard for them to go and kill a champion pack or an elite group. Like, they're not really clearing that content super easy. But it's just the bosses that they're downing.
Just to make sure, like, you're certain of that. I didn't make that claim because I'm not certain of that. I can see how that's probably true. Is this based off just you watching, like, Kriparian's stream and whatnot?
Yeah, I've just been watching streams, and they can kill mobs in Inferno, but it's so chaotic, and it's really, really tough for them. And you only get like one drop off those mobs, or like 2 or 3 or whatever, but it takes a very long time to down anything outside of the bosses.
Yeah. And I think that that's part of the thing too, because, like, we talked about how the hardest thing I mean, look, someone's like already got beasted. The hardest thing is the champion packs, not only because of their crazy affixes and all the randomness that occurs, but the fact that there's usually so many of them, and it's so easy to get overwhelmed and not be able to respond. And in the middle of a crazy hectic battlefield, it's not like these. This guy's just got rolled over. It's not like these boss fights where you can keep resing people, because you usually can't do that in the middle of a fight in the normal game.
Yeah, right. So, it's much harder when you have like incredibly fast group with fire chains and like vortex the worst when you're trying to res someone. So
well, there it is, guys. That's our talk of the difficulty, and I'm going to agree with Jaded in the fact that in the statement that I hope that Blizzard's willing to tune things to make the adjustments necessary to make this the crazy difficulty that they promised. And maybe they didn't expect this. Maybe they thought, well, these people, they're going to be farming gear, right? They have to. Apparently not. You can still beat these bosses without farming the gear for weeks. That is that is obviously the case because it's happening right now. So so there you go. It's crazy. Please make the changes, Blizzard. Blizzard, if anyone at Blizzard is listening to this, change it so that you can't res in a boss fight. Just do that one for now. I think I would be fine with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Another reminder: the white and gray items are completely pointless. I wasn't sure. You're playing through normal. I was like, all right, this stuff is still, not worth a lot at all. I was like, all right, well maybe Act 4 and normal. No, all right, well maybe Nightmare, and no. It's still pointless. People were asking, there are a few blue posts online, people were saying, hey, so what's the point of white and blue items? And just a reminder, this is stuff we've talked about in the past, but it's meant to be pretty. It's meant to be like confetti, and you're supposed to see a lot of white and gray drops that you never want to pick up, except for maybe at the very start of the game when it's the only gear you have, because they're not worth your inventory space. They're so useless. And now that you're in hell, it's still the case, right? They're still just completely pointless.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much a mini game of try to avoid clicking the white items.
That's what it is. I get frustrated when I accidentally click on a white item.
There is the off chance that you see a white item with really high DPS, like higher DPS than the weapon you're using, and then it's beneficial to pick it up and use it, but that's so rare.
Yeah.
It rarely ever happens. And
if you're at that point, like in difficulties or in a certain act where that type of stuff's dropping, and within the next hour you're going to be getting an actual decent item. You know what I mean? That would replace that. At least that's been my experience so far.
You know what it is too with whites in Diablo 2. Whites were actually like you'd want to see what you got. Like if you got an exceptional so and it had like 6 sockets, that was amazing because of rune words. But there's none of that in Diablo 3. There's no reason to ever pick up a white item because there's no, like, imbuing. Imbuing was another reason.
Right.
So, like, maybe later down the road when they add more customization with items, maybe it'll come back. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to see. Oh, this is completely random, not on topic at all. But I've been playing the game for a few days now, obviously, and I just started like throwing dyes on my gear now. I just like remember that dyes were in the game. Have you touched those? It's completely stupid and pointless, but
yeah, I found the what was it? Lovely dye, and I bought 6 of those, and so my barb was pink for like a good portion of the game. Yes.
It's really funny. Yeah, just randomly like today before I logged out, I was like, oh yeah, dyes. Those things exist. And I threw some on my barb. It's cool. I think it'll be neat at the end game, like once you actually have gear that you're going to be holding on to for a while and not replacing constantly every time you play. Especially right now while leveling up to 60. It's been really kind of pointless, but I just did it anyways. But yeah, I think it'll be pretty cool later on, and I'm actually really excited and hoping that there's some super sweet PvP only dyes. I know we're not getting gear or anything, but they've talked about vanity items, and I think the dyes completely could fall into that realm because they don't really do anything. They're just a visual. So I hope there's some sweet badass PvP dyes with crazy glow and all sorts of stuff.
There's so many colors. Like I don't even. Maybe they could do like an animated color or like shimmers. You know, those, like automobile paints,
That'd be
stuff like
awesome.
that.
Get some
Yeah.
decals on my barb.
That's horsepower, dude.
Yeah, yeah. All right, now before we wrap up the show, just gonna take a little bit of time. Jaded, just want to talk about thoughts on Diablo 3. You know, we've had the game for a few days now, barring any downtime that we've had. So, you know, just anything in general, the game's combat, the co-op, the leveling system. Overall, I just want to get your opinion on the game, what you think of it. If you want to give it a Metacritic score, you can do that too.
9 point. No. Yeah, so I've been really enjoying this game. The combat especially feels really beefy, really meaty. I don't have really any complaints on that side of things. There are some questionable things within the game, such as like item pricing seems a bit bizarre on like a few levels. So, like say when you're buying stuff from a vendor, when you first get into the game, it's like 2K or something for a weapon. You're like, okay, that's
A
a lot of
little
my money.
overpriced.
Yeah. And then later on in Hell, it's still like 6K for these items,
Yeah.
but you're making much more money. So, the pricing on stuff is the biggest question mark for me because, especially with the jeweler, I don't know if you've touched him.
You know, not in particular. I've actually just been using him to remove gems, and that's it.
Yeah, that's about all you want to do with him because he's so expensive to
Yeah.
level up gems. And in Diablo 2, this was free to do, but here you have to pay like a hefty sum.
I think
I mean,
I think this is going to be one of the things like in the late game once you start like right now I am replacing my gems with better gems so frequently that I find that I don't think it's a big deal, but I think like once we're in Inferno and to get to the highest tier of gems, it's probably going to be required then to do a lot of combining, but right now I haven't
right.
found it to be necessary, so
Yeah, it's like it's just kind of pointless from the beginning of the game till like, Inferno-ish
right.
to even use that vendor. So that's a little strange. Also, he just doesn't do anything else. It feels like he should do more. I don't know if there's more later that I haven't seen, but
Now, I feel stupid for not knowing this, but he doesn't socket, right? You can't throw a
yeah, he
socket.
doesn't add a socket that I could tell. Like I wanted there to be that later in the game, but I haven't heard anything about it.
That is weird.
Yeah, I thought he would do more, but he's just like the tab's not there.
Maybe
So
he
I'm
maybe
guessing.
maybe you have to unlock it. Maybe it's unlocked as you level him up or something.
It could be. It could be.
I would have to assume that were in the game. If it wasn't, WTF Blizzard, patch that because well, there's no reason the jeweler shouldn't be adding sockets like that. That would be completely idiotic if he didn't. It would
Yeah.
make no sense.
Really, he's just there because he has an amazing voice actor for him.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. That is absolutely true. What about the combat? And I have to admit, this has been a really fun week for me. I've not been like this excited playing a game in a long time. The combat feels so smooth and it's so enjoyable, except for my first playthrough, because the first playthrough was super easy. Now playing through Inferno, where things are actually getting difficult, or at least I'll say more challenging, when things are getting more challenging, and this is the champions were even a joke in normal difficulty, but in Nightmare, in Nightmare they're actually starting to get more difficult. What's your take on the combat? Are you enjoying this?
The combat's glorious.
Glorious is the right word.
Yes, yes. I love how when you're playing co-op, everybody has like their own unique things they're doing. Even if they're like, even when me and you were playing Barbs, like we were doing two Barbs, two Wizards, it still felt really good.
Yeah.
Like I thought there would be some overlap there, and maybe it'd be boring or something. But it felt really solid. I'm going through with a monk friend, and he has like a regen aura, and then I have my shout that also it gives like 10% health, and it's also regenning. So we're like crazy sustain, and that's been working really well. Yeah, and I just noticed like when you go through with different classes, the experience is way different. Like playing with a wizard, like all these fancy, crazy spells going off that I never saw before. I was like really blown away by how those looked.
Yeah, it's cool.
And
It's cool now that the game's out to see all the different runes in effect and everything. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and it's gonna, it'll be it'll be a little bit of a process to know everything by heart on visual. But I'd say sooner or later, this is the case with me in most RPGs that I play. You play the game more, and eventually you just know everything. Like you'll see a spell, and okay, so I know what spell that is runed. I know what the name of the rune and exactly what it does and all that stuff. So it'll be cool once we get to that point. But right now, since the game is just out, there's still a little bit of mystery behind some of this stuff. Like I know just from seeing things, I know what most of everything is, but to actually see it in game and know it offhand, it's not quite there yet. And that's actually kind of cool because again, it's the mystery. It's that's really awesome. What exactly does that do? Oh, that's super cool. you know.
Yeah, it's also really fun to come up with builds that are just insane and suck, but they're still really funny. I just got
let me ask you, what
on,
build are you doing right now? How are you playing your barb at the
right
moment?
now? I love whirlwinds. Like that's really been the fury spender for me. And I find myself going with like the rune where you get fury when you hit stuff. Like every strike of damage, you get one fury.
So this just lets you sustain it longer, right?
Yeah, you're basically just spinning in a group of mobs forever. And that's been a go-to for me. But I venture out and like try new stuff, but I always end up like kind of falling back to the same old like buff up my party, debuff the enemies, and then I have like whirlwind and like bash with the damage enhancing rune.
Yep.
That's been the main one I've been using until I get like frenzy with the damage one. I'm waiting for that.
The other cool thing that I've noticed too is even just switching a spell or two or a rune on an ability, it completely alters your playstyle. Or at least if you don't change your playstyle, you're gonna not do as well. I've tried a few different things. I've mixed things up, and it's like, okay, so how I was playing before isn't quite working as well anymore. So I need to kind of switch it up and change, how I engage different groups of enemies, certain types of enemies, everything like that. For me, primarily, I'm playing a barbarian as well. I've been using, for a while I was dual wielding, but now I'm just one hand and shield. And I've been doing a leap attack with the armor rune to give me, extra defense, more damage mitigation. The ground stomp with the rune that pulls everything in towards you. That's what I've been using for that.
That's probably my favorite ability.
So good. You get stunned, you get everyone right around you. And then with that, I've been using Rend and Revenge for just massive AoE damage. And also, I use Cleave with the, I think it's Rupture rune, which makes everything explode and do damage when you kill it with Cleave. And so basically, my Barbarian, whenever there's a big group, I just jump right into it, pull everything towards me, and massive AoE damage until everything explodes. And it's so much fun. And besides, what the frick is it? Seismic Slam. That's the other one of the big Fury spenders that I've been using. I've had a lot of fun with that. I have it runed to stun. It's been great crowd control. It's there'll be incoming packs. I'll throw down a Seismic Slam. It knocks everyone back, stuns them. At least has like a 70% chance to stun them. And that's what I've been rolling with for the most part. Obviously, switch it up like during boss fights. Instead of Cleave, I get Bash, single target damage as opposed to group damage and. It's been really, really enjoyable, and I'm also going to be interested too. Once we hit level 60, and there's so much more incentive to stick with one build, that's when people are going to get really serious about their builds because they're going to want to, hold on to that Nephilim Valor buff. So,
yeah, that's one thing. They were kind of ignoring that, the people rushing through Inferno right now, but I wonder how that's going to come into play because you do have to switch your builds around quite often. It feels like.
Unless it's just really difficult if you don't, especially like for me, most of the time with massive amounts of enemies, I'm all about AoE group damage, but that's not effective at all in the boss fights. So.
Yeah, so like when you come across those little goblins with the loot. Those are really hard to kill in later difficulties. So you have to have specs just to kill that little guy.
Yeah.
And so you have to switch constantly. And that's kind of one thing I hope they add too. Once you get later in the game, you'll start switching a lot more, it feels like.
Yeah.
I hope they add specs because it's kind of obnoxious to like what skill is here and like I don't know, it's a little annoying. I hope to add specs so you can just switch really fast.
Yeah, that'd be good if they had like, 3 presets or something,
Yeah.
like custom builds or like custom loadouts. You see stuff like that in a lot of games nowadays. That'd be really, really good. Let's talk about too the co-op versus the single player experience. What have you been doing primarily, and do you enjoy one over the other?
I haven't touched single player yet. I kind of want to do it just to play with the followers because those are really cool. And they have a lot of dialogue, I've noticed, and they kind of talk with each other and stuff. It's really cool, the followers that they added. So I haven't experienced those. I've only done co-op. I've done two-player co-op and a little bit of three-player co-op, but that's basically it.
Yeah. So I would assume then you obviously enjoy co-op.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
most.
absolutely.
I'm probably split down the middle right now when it comes to my playtime between playing by myself and playing with a group. And I'll say this, and I guess this is pretty much to be expected. As great as playing with a group is, unless you're playing with some really dedicated people, you kind of get held back a little bit. And a lot of times, if unless like my super hardcore elite friends are on, a lot of times I'll be like, I'm just gonna play single player because if everyone's not there, obviously when you play with multiple people, the Diablo's minions grow stronger and it's more difficult to kill them. And so when that's happening and everyone's not focused or in tune, that can be a problem. And so
Or someone's AFK.
right, or if someone keeps going back to town, or every time they level up, it takes them half hour to look at all their skills. Obviously people play the game at your own pace, but if you're trying to level up quickly, it's not always the best in a group because of that fact. If everyone's not on point, then it is going to take you longer to level up. And I guess that just for me, like sometimes, like this morning, for example, I got on, I was like, all right, I really want to bang out a few levels. And this morning I got from, I got from like 45 to 51 this morning. And I did that solo, and I was like, this is great, because I'll just keep going. I'm going to keep grinding, go. I keep running through Nightmare, and I didn't have to worry about slowing up or stopping for anyone. But I definitely noticed while playing with a group that can happen sometimes. And I guess for me, obviously, I really love playing with my friends, and especially later on when everyone's 60, I'll probably almost exclusively play in a group. But while leveling right now, sometimes I'm just doing it by myself, and it's been working well.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like playing with my monk friend, because his aura is so big to me. Like it's so impactful on how survivable I am. Like the second we get apart from each other, I'm just like spilling right and left. So we have to stick together all the time.
And again, especially during those champion packs, it's
Yes,
super
yes.
necessary. If you're playing in a group and you guys are split up when you hit a champion and the higher difficulties, say bye-bye to your character. It's going to be a quick death for the most part. The leveling process, I guess probably the last major thing, this is, I don't know if this is a complaint, I'm just going to make a statement. It's pretty easy. It's feeling pretty quick. Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
30,
it's not a
30
struggle at all.
hours. We're both, I'm 51, you're 55, and we both have about 30 hours played.
It's probably take like 40 hours for us, somewhere in there,
Yeah.
to get max level.
Does that seem small to you? Is it just me? I don't know. I can't really think of what I'm really basing this on. It feels like it's a pretty quick process overall.
It feels quick. You don't ever feel overwhelmed skill-wise. Like it feels like the pacing feels good.
Yes.
But getting to 60, it might be a little too fast. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
but also, I guess to be fair, if you look at like an MMO, this is just a random example. The Elder Scrolls Online, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this. This is going to be coming out sometime next year. They said it's going to take 120 hours to get level cap. But I guess you wouldn't expect a game like this to take as long. I think that a lot of complaints are going to be coming from people who are coming from Diablo 2, where getting to that max level was absurd.
Yeah.
But it's also they did this on purpose. They removed that crazy grind because they didn't feel it was worth it. They didn't feel it really added anything, especially in the later levels. Every time you leveled up and you got like that one extra that one extra skill point or whatever, it was like, what the heck is the point? It barely affects anything at all.
Yeah, that's sort of how games have been changing towards. Like in the past, there was this endless level grind, and it didn't really matter if you leveled up or not towards the end, but it was just there for you to do, right?
Yeah.
It was the same way with Lineage 2. I used to play that, and you get 60, and then there were no more skills past 60, but people were still leveling to 70 regardless, because it's just something to do to get stronger, to get more stats or whatever. So games have really changed their focus nowadays. You don't see that too often.
I definitely agree with that, and I'm sure we could spend hours going into the discussion of how games have changed from now to then. And some people will call it more casual, and then I guess the less cynical out there would say it's more streamlined. And specifically talking about the skill progression, I completely agree with you. And there are many games where when you level up, it can be a little bit overwhelming. It's like, oh, I got all these new things. I'm gonna try to figure out what everything does. This is obviously just in your first playthrough of a game, but it's feeling pretty natural for me as well. I don't feel like I don't know what's available to me, or there's too much available or anything like that. But yeah, I do still feel it's a little short, and that's not necessarily complaint, like I said earlier, because heck, I want to get to 60 as fast as possible.
Yeah. Plus, if you level alts or anything, it's gonna be nice.
That's
just
that's the other thing too, and that's a real. Very positive of you, Jaded. That's a real positive way to look at it.
Yes.
This is going to give you it's going to give a lot more people a more reasonable method of leveling up alts, because it's not so ridiculous to level up a single character. So this will get people to see more characters, and I think that's a great thing, because I would love to have a 60. I'm sure I obviously will eventually, but I would love for lots of people to have 60s of every character class, so they can experience them to their full potential, and to make it so that it's not completely overwhelming and taking millions of years is a good thing, I think. So.
Yeah, plus later when they add PvP, you're going to want to know what every class does.
Right, and so the best way to do that is to play yourself.
Exactly, yeah. I always do that in games. I try to level up all the classes so I know what's going on.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. All right. That's going to do it then. Let's actually wrap things up with some community questions. Now, we do pull questions from the Facebook fan page, so if you have a question that you would like answered on DiabloCast, go ahead and head on over to the Force Strategy Facebook fan page. It can be found on the top of the YouTube channel. There's a little link up there, and ask your question. Let's take a look here. First question. After Inferno, what do you plan to do next? Start leveling an alt, PvP, or something else? Jaded, I'll let you answer that one. What are your plans?
They haven't announced when PvP's coming.
Probably like 3 months, if I had to throw a guess out there.
Yeah, a few months from now at least. I'm gonna keep grinding the barb out and try to get some gear in Inferno. And if it gets to the point where the group of people I play with just get stuck, or something like that, I'll probably switch over and start leveling in alts for sure, because I do want to check all the classes out.
What's your first alt going to be? Have you decided yet?
It's going to be ranged, but I have not decided. It's either Demon Hunter, Witch Doctor, or Wizard.
Yeah, I feel like so many people are playing Wizards and Barbs right now. I almost just want to go for a Witch Doctor or Demon Hunter because of that.
Yeah, same here.
It feels like everybody, and I expected that. In fact, you looked at like popularity polls before launch, and most people were pretty much saying that same thing. They're like, oh yeah, I think Wizard or Barb will be my first, and yeah. Here's a question, Force. Where are your non-stop Diablo streams? That doesn't. I'm sorry. Here's what happened. Let's talk about the launch day stream that took place. So, if you happen to see it, it was myself, Jaded, Jesse Cox, and then a good friend of Jesse's as well, Michael Schroeder. That's his name. That's how you say it. So we did a stream, 8 hours. That's how long the stream was. It was, from 3 in the morning my time until like 11 the next day. And I ended up losing internet. And then after that, I was like, all right, well, I haven't been able to get this thing back up and running, so I guess that's it. And the problem was that after that occurred, everyone leveled at their own pace. I think Jesse and Michael kind of took some time off. I actually saw them both on alts, and Jaded was going ahead, and I started going ahead as well. Jaded, you actually took off, I think, before anyone else, because I think I pretty much took almost the rest of that day off. But yeah, so because everyone was at an inconsistent level, we weren't able to continue that. I might do like a full playthrough at some point, maybe just because. I don't know. We'll have to see. Sorry that ended up happening. I know it's kind of like frustrating for a lot of people, but yeah, well. Any disappointments now that you've played through the game when it comes to lore, gameplay, boss fights, etc.? Jaded? And if it is lore-wise, we're not going to spoil the lore, but you can just say, I'm disappointed because.
We already talked about a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the bosses in general, I think visually, I think they're awesome. Like, I love how Diablo looks and all that.
Yeah.
It's really cool, but
Diablo's got that super attack that looks crazy. The like little beam of lightning thing that's like all the millions of different colors. I love I love that visually.
Yeah. And but yeah, just the mechanics I think can be a little more impressive. That's my biggest complaint, I guess.
Boss fights specifically when it comes to mechanics, you mean?
And the loot dropping, like they should drop some good stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Kagan asks, hey Force, do you think Blizzard will come out and update the game that allows us to play offline sometime in the future when the game is old enough? No, it'll never happen. Again, the biggest reason they're not doing this, according to them, and it makes sense, is security reasons. They don't want people to have all of the game's information on their computer, which would have to be the case if you could play it offline. They want a lot of that stuff to be on the Blizzard servers so that it's more difficult to hack and more difficult to dupe items. And one of the major reasons this is happening, no question about that at all, is because of the real money auction house. They don't want to have to deal with the headache of people duping items and throwing stuff on the auction house and making, tons and tons of money, and then having to deal with kind of the fallout that would inevitably come from something like that. So, yeah, no question about that. Ooh, favorite act in the game. Jada, what's your favorite act? Or random events to date?
That's a tough one. Act 2 is a bit too bright for me, so I'd say Act 3. That sounds good.
Act 3 is your favorite? Yeah, I think a lot of Act 3 I really enjoy as well. I think one thing that I really, really love about Act 3 is that with my AoE build, there's tons of mobs in that act for a vast majority of it, and it's just crazy effective. There's a lot of high number, low HP mobs in Act 3 that I just tear through. I think for that reason I really, really like that act as well.
You know what it is too? In Diablo 2, Act 3 was horrible. Like, nobody likes Act 3 in Diablo 2. So to see it be, to be enjoyable, I think that's why.
Yeah. It's, I guess that's pretty true too. Visually, besides that too, I think visually, Act 3, I enjoy the most as well. A lot of the outdoor areas are cool. A lot of the indoor areas are really nice too. I think the dungeons in Act 3 look really, really nice. I think there's a lot of nice doodads that they have in there, like a lot of the environmental stuff. And there's a lot of places where you actually, I don't remember which one it is, but in one specific dungeon, you're weaving in and out of the indoor and outdoor areas. I love when dungeons do that. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So, yeah, I think I'd agree. I'm just copying everything Jaded says. That's my life story. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of DiabloCast. As always, we thank you so much for watching. Be sure to tune in next week. If you're wondering, hey, where is Jesse? Jesse Cox is celebrating his birthday right now. That is why he cannot make it with us this week, but he will be back next week, so be sure to tune in. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you have been enjoying Diablo 3. Hopefully you can play the game now, and hopefully you enjoy your weekend playing it as well. And you know what? I'm sure most people will probably be done the game by next DiabloCast. So I think then we'll probably go full out and talk about the story. I think it's all right. Story. It wasn't.
Did it feel a little like there's not a lot of meat there?
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's because of the story itself or because I've been overtired because playing the game too much. But I guess I could see your complaints.
I just want to watch a whole Diablo movie, with the cinematics.
No question about
Absolutely.
that. Just don't skip the Act 2 cinematics, that's all.
Yes.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week. For Jaded, this has been Dennis. Thanks for watching, and go own it up in Sanctuary. Take it easy, guys. Jaded, you're supposed to say goodbye.
Oh, toodaloo.
Haven't we gotten this figured out by now?
I'm always confused because some of them people say